Hey guys, this is Plasmus Prime again. Now I'm here to talk about something which has gotten a bit of a has become a bit of it's not really a hot button topic, so to speak, but it is something that has got me wondering about something. And the question is, should Nintendo still be considered a contender in the console wars? I mean, admittedly, now this is the book. Console wars is about the as you can see, it's about the 8-bit and 16-bit era console wars between the NES, the Master System, the Genesis, and respectively the SNES. But I'm not talking about that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, ever since the launch of the Wii back in, when was it, 2006? Yeah. Actually, let me look it up here. Ever since the Wii's launch, essentially, Nintendo has effectively become. I'm not saying that the Wii did not deserve. I'm not saying that the Wii. The Wii did clearly clearly dominate the market of its generation, to the point that I think it's still being. I think units are still shipping to this day. I don't think it's been retired. It's ironic. It's what was supposed to be its immediate predecessor. What was meant to be its immediate follow-up has been retired and replaced outright. First produced in 2006. Okay. Yeah, so I was right. Okay. But yeah. The thing about the Wii, in my opinion, now, I've never owned one, but I have have relatives and I have friends and relatives who do. In fact, I did consider getting one for my little sister at one point, but that didn't really come to fruition. It was not anything on my end. It was just that it was just more along the lines of, I don't want to put this. It was an idea I floated, but ultimately it was shut down for various reasons, mostly time constraints, grades, the usual stuff. Also, maturity level, at least in part, was a factor. But anyway, you guys, like I said, you see, unlike my friend back here, unlike the situation that led to Sonic the Hedgehog and being created, because Nintendo at that point was essentially before the Genesis came around. Nintendo was effectively the be-all, end-all, at least after Atari, after the 5200, the Atari 5200, which I've never actually seen one in person, but I've seen a lot of videos about it, mostly James Rolfe's. Shout out to him. But still, I'm not going to go that route. What do you want? Okay, anyway, my dad's cat is here. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I understand you're not mine. But like I said, it's essentially. Like I said, Nintendo was essentially the before Sega, before the Genesis or Master System, Mega Drive. That's it. Yeah, sorry, the Master System came first. That's right. It was Master System then Genesis. The Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on which part of the world you were living in, because in North America it was the Genesis. Everywhere else, apparently, it was the Mega Drive. I have no idea why the hell that was. It's not like Mega Drive. But I digress. But like I said, before the Genesis, Nintendo really was the be-all, end-all for the home console market, at least in the Western world. I don't know enough about Japan. Although it is covered somewhat in this book, so if you haven't gotten it, go get it. It's fun. It's really, it's more of a historical novel, or although it's listed as a although the blurb on the in the flap, it says it describes it as a thriller of sorts, which admittedly it is. I mean, you'll find it in the gaming section of every bookstore I've ever stumbled across it in. That's where they don't file it over with the business model type stuff, or even the world history thing, which is another place where you would think they would put it. And it's definitely not a biography, but that's a detail. Yeah, I mean, it really does show things from a different perspective, because as a consumer, there's a lot of stuff you don't know about, and it goes into details like how Sonic was, go to the development stages, and how the American and how the differences in cultural aspects between Europe, the Americas, mostly North America, but it doesn't really go into detail about South America, and Eastern Asia, with Japan being the primary representative in that part, because they really do go into the differences and details, and just how the approaches are different, how the business model is different. In fact, there's this entire section about just the I don't know. I'm sure most of you who are watching this probably are aware that originally what became the PlayStation was meant to be it was essentially going to be Nintendo's answer to the Sega CD. It was just before the CDI with Philips. But anyway, actually it goes in there's an entire chapter devoted solely to the man whose brainchild the PlayStation line actually is. And Sega did court that idea for a while, but can you imagine that going down? If the PlayStation had essentially been what in our world I think in the place of the Sega CD instead of it being its own thing. Now that's intriguing. But anyway, but still, back to Nintendo. Nowadays, especially because, like I said, most people that had the thing about the Wii is that while it was in more homes than the Xbox One, the Xbox 360 and the PS3 and the PlayStation 3 or PS3 van. I'm going to say PS3 from going forward. The thing is, for the most part, if you had one of the others, most of the people who had the Wii, outside of parents and grandparents, or most Wiis that were in households, anyway, were primarily, they were not the only console. At the very least, you had either a PS2 or original Xbox, or one of the immediate competitors, I'm sure, because outside of doctors' offices or other places that had that sort of setup, because you would have it in the waiting room or in a back area for in some cases, or in the rec room for apartment complexes, stuff like that, where because I think that is really a big part of it, because for the most part, if it was in a household, there was at least one of the other two, and eventually, I'm sure, and like I said, because the thing about the Switch, and they're also having trouble with this, is the Switch has, now I don't know, because it's recent enough that I don't know if this trend is going to continue, but the way I'm approaching it is, as you know from watching the previous videos I've done on this subject, I personally have a PS3 and a PS4, and I have a bunch of friends of mine, a friend of mine who I used to work with, and who I'm collaborating with on several other things, and I keep in touch with him. He has, well, it's not actually his, but he has access to I think like one of it's his brothers and the other one is his stepfathers. I forget. But yeah, he has at least access to an Xbox 360 and an Xbox and now an Xbox One. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, so essentially the Switch. We were talking about getting a Wii U at one point before it became clear that was going to be discontinued very, very, very quickly. So I got to so essentially we have decided that at some point before the end of the at this point it's probably like the end of the 2019 calendar year. It's not because of financial situations on both ends, but we are planning on getting at we're planning on getting at least one Switch in each household because when you think about it, the Switch and like it's like the Wii, it really is a game changer in so many ways. To also the point that it's almost one like you have to wonder, should Nintendo be considered a participant in the console wars, or are they essentially the gaming equivalent of Switzerland? Because, like I said, the vast majority of people who had a Wii, I mean, yes, there were some exclusives to it, but for the most part, here's an example. Obviously, the Mario and Zelda games, that's obviously you can't get those on PlayStation or Xbox or before Sega. But for the most part, consoles are made are for essentially, while first party games are important and are the main selling points, for the most part sales are made for via third party games. Like I said, now I'm not saying like Wii Sports is okay. I've done that, but still, there are some things that you have to wonder: is at this day and age, while Nintendo is obviously is here to stay. At least for the foreseeable future, it's not going anywhere. Clearly, but is it? With the recent announcement that that Google is planning on at least testing the waters, so to speak, with hardware. But apparently it's more like. Apparently that one is more like the current generation's equivalent to what OnLive tried. I don't know. And then there's also the fact that there's it seems to be like a streaming type setup, and then there's also the Steam box to consider. But still, the Steam box is essentially going to be a that's not really going to be a console. At least not in the way most people think of it. It's more of you're able to take it's more or less like it's essentially a standalone piece of hardware that only you utilize the Steam client to play PC games. That's essentially it. That's obviously that's going to make it slightly easier to do stuff like that, especially because for the most part, the thing about it is, well, sort of, is that most high-end gaming PCs, especially the liquid-cooled ones, they're not exactly the most portable of devices, so it makes sense to have something that you can, like for example, if you want to bring it to the beach or something, you can't really bring your super de-duper Alienware liquid-cooled gaming monster machine type thing, but you can take, say, a PS3 or a PS4 if you have the proper carrying cases, which I do have for the PS3. I don't have one for the PS4 yet, and like I said, I've gotten a bunch of other stuff I've started to collect. So I probably should. And there's also the PS Vita, which I'm planning on getting another one. I got one of those at one point, but the internet provider we had at the time was not did not. But that's a detail it's a conversation for another time. Okay. But still, like I said, Nintendo. I really do think that while they should be counted as far as totals, I do not think. I think that the true competitors nowadays are really is Sony and Microsoft, with the possibility of Valve once they actually get their hardware released, whichever generation they decide to enter the game. And there's also rumors that Sega might be attempting to go back to being a first-party developer at some point in the future. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I say it's a good question. Like, should in the current gaming environment and the market and all that junk stuff, like I said, it's a very intriguing question. Should Nintendo be should their console sales, should they be counted should they officially be counted towards who actually wins a console generation anymore? Because of because I going back to this again, but it's really the crux of the point I'm making. The Wii changed so much about how how gaming is treated by the general public that it really does beg the question. Starting with that, should that like I said, because while the Wii did sell more than the PS3 and the Xbox 360 put together, if memory serves, a lot of that was because you had. I think that I want to say at least I'm sure there were some that were standalone, like I said, like the doctor's offices, law firms, and the like. Stuff they have in the waiting room for or in a break room or some such for the clientele to have their kids use while they were doing something. And then, of course, there's probably at least a couple of. I'm sure there's probably at least a couple of school. I'm sure there were probably at least a couple hundred schools in the U.S. alone that probably had at least one being used for some purpose. I'm sure. And then, of course, there's also the fact that it was probably. There's also the fact that it really got into the older generation. Really got into it because as you could do the Wii Fitness and all that stuff, so it gets people moving. You've all seen that Simpsons episode where I'm sure you can look it up. There's that one episode of The Simpsons where the TV at the retirement home gets wrecked in some way. I think Bart did something to it. I forget. I haven't watched it in a while, but I think I probably will look it up again. But yeah, and Bart and Lisa, instead of just getting a new TV out by itself, they end up getting, it was the cable box got destroyed by something. That was it. Where instead of replacing it with that, or at least just that, they convinced someone. They convinced one of the people there or Lisa or Homer or someone got got the Simpsons equivalent of the Wii for the retirement home, and eventually the nursing staff said, this is getting out of hand. We liked them better when they were more docile. Yeah, like I said, but still, that is what I think that. That is. Like I said, you would not have had the a PS3 or an Xbox of any generation, really, especially since the Kinect became the rather colossal failure that it was. Whereas the Move controller You can still, technically, you can still use it with the PS4. For the most part, it's only used for the VR stuff, but I think you can still use it for stuff like MLB The Show and whatnot. I haven't actually tried it yet, mostly because I had to wait 3 weeks for MLB The Show, MLB 18, the show to launch, and I'm probably not going to be able to get it the day of anyway because of work-related issues. But that's a detail. Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's gotten to the point where you have to wonder, like I said, starting with the 7th generation, really, is Nintendo really a contender? I mean, like I said, we don't know. It's still early enough in the game, so to speak, for the Wii, for the Switch. Because the Switch could easily turn this around and change my opinion. Because there's one I haven't actually, I have fiddled around with one of the display units at GameStop or Best Buy. You know, I have not. I don't actually own one, and at least not yet. And I do plan on getting one at some point within the next year or so, the next year and a half, 2 years. It's just, I mean, like I said, it's just not right. Financially, it's not really feasible at this point. Yeah, so like I mean, that's just one thing. But yeah, I mean, like I said, even though with all those mainstream, especially like I said, because I really do think that the Wii is not. Should Nintendo count? I mean, leave it in the comments. Check it out. I mean, like I said, guys, leave comments, subscribe if you so choose. Because this is not. I'm not done with this topic. And another thing I'm going to talk about in the near future is. Let's see what I said. Oh yes. GameFly's streaming service. And whether or not it's a good thing that it's, whether or not, and there's one thing and I'll go in more detail with this at a later point, maybe tomorrow or maybe later in the week, but it's really, one thing that's rather strikes me as odd is the fact that, unlike Netflix, which is a lot of people compare GameFly to just by default, for some reason, because whereas with Netflix, all you had to do when the streaming service was launched, all you had to do is have a valid account with them, and you could stream what was available, or you could get the other stuff that if you so chose, you can still get stuff via the mail. As I understand it, that is still the case. My family does not currently have the mailing service aspect anymore. We dropped that. I think it was. Wait, when was that?
Hey, Don?
Yes?
What do you work today?
4 to 8.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, let's see here. So, yeah. But still, you only had the one payment plan. Yeah. I think it was like that was sometime in 2012. I forget. Yeah. So. It's like I said, should Nintendo be counted in the console wars anymore, or has it essentially become neutral, effectively the equivalent of no man's land, where people, has it effectively become what the PC gaming,
So you know Duncan, Cassie is outside.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, so yes, has Nintendo become what PC gaming was back in the 90s and through the mid 2000s? Yeah, so goodbye.